it on time as any other.
Why not?
Go on, Bill.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. We've got Ammon with us today. Ammon, how are you?
Yeah, getting by. Been better, been worse. Still kicking.
It's good to hear. Doc Sheldon's also joined us. Doc, how are you today?
Hello, everybody. Doing great. Not enjoying the fact that summer has definitely ended and looks like we're skipping spring and going right into winter here.
You mean
Terry laughs because my idea of winter is his idea of summer, but
no, it's the idea that you think spring follows summer.
Well, fall, whatever. You know what I
mean. How about you, Terry? How are you this week?
Oh, okay. Working on a few things. Finishing off the Bootstrap project and squaring away the SSL. You know, WordPress only does so much, so then you have to go in and massage the databases to get it all done.
Yeah.
And, you know, now I'm experiencing the loss that you take when you change over to HTTPS.
Yep.
I guess it'll be momentary. I don't think it'll be long before they'll figure out what's going on. But unfortunately, in the middle of it, I had to do my ranking for the month. So things didn't turn out too well.
Timing is everything, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Well, also, I'm really seeing lately, I've been looking at some of my old sites that basically, some of them I haven't touched in years. And they always had traffic constantly, right? And it was always about the same amount. A few months back, all of it just stopped on every one of the projects that I basically quit maintaining and adding new content. And one of the things is with this one client, I've been spending so much time on getting the site tuned and working properly that I didn't do what I normally would do in terms of promotion. So I got about 12 months of looking for referral traffic. I wouldn't say link building. I look for referral traffic.
Yeah.
Because you can bet if they're sending me traffic, Google likes them and is going to give me credit for that. So that's what I worked on.
I must admit, despite the wording of some of the patents, it doesn't quite seem likely to me that Google are examining the traffic through every link on the web. That seems like an immense waste of resources.
Yeah.
And too easy to gain. I think what they do with that is basically feed it into machine learning so that the links they're recognizing as valuable are more often tied to the ones that in their tests have shown to be getting the traffic.
Right, or that's just circumstantial, you know what I mean? All the fact that it sends me traffic is because the quality of the site that you're on, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's what, if a site is sending me traffic, I know that I don't have to worry about it. Because at the bottom line is I'm getting traffic and sales from it. So even if Google may not like it that much, it still works for me. which is why I used to get crazy when Google said I couldn't advertise on places. You know, having to not put your ad on a place because they didn't want to no follow it. That was really maddening. Mm-hmm. But you couldn't do that for that reason. So in some ways, what Google thought was good was actually not very good for some people. It was probably good for AdWords.
Bingo.
Yep. Links are still one of the major signals for Google, but also one of the most shrouded in mystery in exactly what they're doing with them.
Google retracted the top 3 ranking signals a little while ago. Gary said it's not links and content is the top 2.
All right.
It's a mix of lots of things. Depending upon the query.
Well, sure, it's going to depend on the query, and I think too that you got to look at some aggregate factors. How many elements play into things like trust and authority. Right. Links would be one of them, and I think that to me, I would suspect that at least the major elements that go into building trust and authority are going to be really high on the list of factors. But it's just you can't look at any ranking factor anymore in isolation. They're all so interwoven.
Yeah. Well, you can't isolate them to start. That's part of the problem. They're weed that's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Something like a title, you can isolate it and actually test it pretty accurately. But there aren't a lot of things that you can say, I did this test and I'm pretty sure of this. You can't say that anymore. Anybody who says they're testing, I just kind of laugh and say, well, why would you waste your time doing that? And you'd think I shot the Pope the way people react.
I can count on the fingers of one hand the number of so-called SEOs that I've seen that have any clue on how to build a proper test.
Well, that's right, because we couldn't build a proper test.
Well, even if you could, these guys are presenting tests with no control. They're presenting tests with a huge sample package of 150 users. Come on. These guys wouldn't know DOE if it bit them in the ass, most of them. I could count. Like I said, I could count them on the fingers of one hand and still have enough left to grab a baseball.
Yeah, I kind of what we used to call testing, I call now gathering info. You can't really test stuff like we used to be able to, and that's
not as easily.
You can do an A/B testing on a meta description for click-through rate, yeah, but the vast majority of elements, no.
The ranking stuff, I don't think you can isolate it enough that you can say this is true. You can say this is indicated. I would agree with that. Just like correlation, right? I think if something is correlated, I'm going to do it. I don't have to know. I don't have to know that it's going to raise my rankings, but if it's correlated, it means the other people who are ranking well are doing that also, and I got to believe that they're probably doing it for a good reason.
Well, it's one of those situations where, at the very least, it's not likely to hurt you.
Yes.
But sometimes that's the best you can
hope. You can waste a lot of time. It's a bit like, you remember the heyday of the revisit after meta tag? If you did a study, all the top sites used it, and look, they're all ranking well. It didn't do anything, but those ranked sites were the ones with SEO, and the SEOs were all following this thing even though it wasn't working, so it tended to get in there. If you convince SEOs that having a purple logo will help them rank, and they all start switching to doing it, guess what? All the top ranked sites will have the evidence will support it.
Dave and I had a long-standing discussion regarding, like, I hate huge images, big videos at the top of the page. I think they are the biggest waste of real estate out there. But every time I bring that up, Dave would say, well, look, every one of those sites is ranking. It can't be a negative. And then I'd say, yeah, but every one of them are doing it. So you can't really say that it is a negative. It just means that they've all just been pulled down the same amount.
You know, by that logic, then you could go and look at the payday loan or porn industries and say that, you know, they're all ranking and they're all doing this, so it must be a good thing. Yeah.
Right. But I just kind of, when, like, first of all, to me, it makes sense because, you know, the only people who like those things are designers. Users don't like them. That's a known fact. And, you know, sane people don't like them.
Sane people?
I don't think I know any of those.
It's a mix. There's a lot of people who do actually kind of like those big images, but it depends on the product. It depends on the kind of thing.
But are they clicking on them? Are they actually part of the conversion funnel?
Yes.
Sometimes.
In A/B testing, they often contribute to conversions, but they're not clickable most of the time. But if you want to demonstrate a product, sometimes a slider is exactly the right thing to do. If you're working with a bar or a restaurant, going with a big image up the front seriously helps conversion.
No, that hasn't been.
Things like art sites and whatnot, yeah, it can definitely be effective.
Because the atmosphere is so much a part of restaurant, people do judge so much of it by how it looks. It has a major effect on conversion.
Okay, I agree with that. It depends on the industry.
Yes.
But we were mainly looking at e-commerce sites, right? And I'm not a big believer that having a big slider at the top is all that.
No.
Right?
No. It does work well for property, real estate.
Yeah, clothing probably.
Can work well for any product you need to see a variety of. You know, think of it as a window display, an instant window display. On their way in, they see this thing. There's a lot of
for me, when I look at a page and I don't call them, you know, I could just call them the objects on the page. What's getting clicked is all I care about, right? Because if it ain't being clicked, it ain't being seen. That's the way I kind of see it, as if, and my theory is pretty well played out over time that, you know, if someone isn't clicking on that, it's probably not a good use of that space.
Yeah.
No, it's just because you're a mercenary, Terry.
And I want to sell things. I really don't care what it, like, some of the ugliest websites I've ever seen converted like crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And then you see beautiful websites that couldn't sell, you know, fire to Eskimos type deal. Like, you know, they just can't sell. Yeah. And to me, that's, if your website is meant to sell, that's all that matters. What it looks like is not playing a big role in the actual getting of the sale.
Right.
I see adding a little bit of trust, right? The better a website looks, probably the more trust you're going to get at sale time.
The appearance of Craigslist doesn't stop me from buying things from it.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah. However, it sometimes reminds me a little bit of, well, you'll like this, Terry, cookery. You know, there's a lot of food that doesn't look great, but you know it's wonderful, and that's perfect. But it's also important in a lot of restaurants, how the food is presented, how it looks, because it is part of the overall experience. My father always used to joke that, you know, Chinese and Japanese food were opposites. He said Chinese food often looks terrible and tastes wonderful. And there's a lot of Japanese food that looks wonderful and tastes like wax fruit. And there is a certain element to that. I do think that there's more than just conversions sometimes. You've also got to think about reputation and PR for building those links. And sometimes having a site that not only has the functionality but looks great does seriously help with getting those links in.
I agree there, because those people care what they're linking to, right? They're looking at it different. That's why when someone like who's in the business says, well, I don't like that in a cert, I ignore it. You know why? Because probably users don't even see that. Whereas we look at things much differently than the audiences that we're trying to, point is, I guess, or push towards the goal line. I think sometimes that's lost on people.
Yes, but that's almost everything, isn't it? It's like I see a lot of people who think they're doing conversion analysis and they're looking at what converts on any one given visit and not doing enough about looking at repeat actions over time. And sometimes they're removing things that are at the top of the funnel because they're seeing all the action down at the bottom, but what they didn't realize, that primed it. And then they went off and had a conversation and a think about it, and they came back a week later. And on this visit, here's what they did. But if they hadn't had that first visit and done those things that you just thought got no conversions, none of that would have happened. I think people can be very myopic.
Right. They may have printed the page and brought it to a board meeting.
Yeah. If someone isn't ready to buy, they're not going to go to the buying page.
Yeah. And one of the classics for that used to be the number of sites that say, well, I don't know about all these keywords because when we actually look at our conversions, our brand is the major thing and we're always going to rank for that. Yeah. How did people get to look for your site? Why did they remember the brand? What had they visited and went, oh, what was that site again? You know, they didn't bookmark it. They're not going through the email link. They're actually searching for the brand. Right. That means they've done something else that showed them the brand, and then they're having to search to find the brand rather than going straight to the domain. So it's usually not the activities that a lot of people think it is that's doing that. It helps. But brand search is often, the subsequent visits, the second and third visits after that early intelligence gathering type of search.
Right. People don't, or I'd like to think that people in our business understand that most sales don't happen the first time someone goes to a website. Often they go 2-3 times, and sometimes you'll see that'll be in the over months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with David. Hey, David.
Oh, no.
They don't, do they?
Well, I mean,
we should take them out and shoot them.
Well, you start talking about conversion rate optimization and goal tracking and funnels, and I start buzzing. So, well, no, I was like, you'd be amazed at how many people, when I set up segments in analytics for people, don't know that you can switch between sessions and users. And you can actually see this in analytics by saying, like, my conditional is, I want people that did this user did this and did this in the last session. And they don't know that you can differentiate a user from a session, let alone see what that actual funnel, like you guys were talking about, like the person came through search the first time, but this last time came from a direct traffic or a referral link or social media, and you can see that funnel more effectively. And find it really funny because I was actually going to ask you guys about what do you think of abandoned cart features in e-commerce stores, but that's a whole different topic if you guys want to. But yeah, like even people in our industry don't like they'll talk about, oh, you know, you can't identify where the person first learned of you, therefore your marketing funnel money. We should, you know, they'll always make excuses for, well, I don't know how they really heard about it, but the last time it was from search. But they don't know how to go about actually quantifying it, let alone using it to their advantage.
Yeah,
and that's in our industry, let alone, you know, people outside our industry have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
That's why when I was doing payday loans, I didn't use Google Analytics. I had my own. I gathered the data myself, and I could follow users right through the site, like see what pages they saw, the order they saw, and that's much more useful than a lot of times when you look at the funnels from Google. It says someone came to the site, but we don't know where they came from, and we don't even know what page on your site they landed on. That seems like, hey, you just don't want to tell me.
There you go.
That's the way it seems. Like, how could they not know where they started on your site? That's always like, I've looked at those funnels and thought, how could they not know that? I could see it if someone turned off JavaScript, that makes sense. But then there would be nothing in the funnel because it doesn't work without it. But that always annoyed me because it just didn't make sense. It's like, oh, they're hiding stuff on us again.
Again, sometimes it's just oversight. You know, they're looking for the referrer, and if it's not there, they kind of, oh, well, we don't know where they've come from, and you know, it's just automated without really thinking, well, if you don't have that information, what do you have? What page did they start on? Is a very, you know, good place to start. And sometimes they're just throwing away data whenever one piece fails.
I'm just always amazed that people don't ask more questions. They're so ready to give up and say, I don't know, I can't get that information. That information's not available to me. They never follow up and start thinking like, maybe it is, I don't know how to look for it. Maybe I could do things in order to get that information, like UTM strings, for example. Like yes. All these things that people are so ready to just give up before trying to find the answers that could literally differentiate their business from everything else. And it's like you're at some point they gloss over and don't want to go any further, and that's their brick wall. And that's marketing people too. Like I said, I mean, there's so many people in our industry that just stop there and they just give up on the whole idea that they'd be able to identify where that person's funnel happened.
It's something I gave a talk at Brighton a few years ago on Google Analytics and why it shouldn't just be the default, the go-to answer for everybody. And, you know, that it's fine. There's a lot of advantages to it, but it should never be a blind decision, and it should be dictated by the needs, what information you need, how you're going to use it, who's going to read it and what they find readable and what they need to know. And there are companies with whom, you know, data warehousing is the way to go, where they want to keep all the data to themselves. They don't want to give this away. Information is power, but also it enables them to do more of the stuff like Amazon, where you are able to send out emails that have got specific tracking codes that tell you what product, what person, and what that is responding to it. You know, a click to your site is not just telling you that this person came through and not just telling you they came from email. It's giving you a referral number so you know exactly which email they're responding to, and who it is. And then you tie that to data you've gathered in the past about this particular user, and you add it to their account. And over time, you're building up a really good picture of how people repeatedly use your site. And
they've got a tremendous profile about things that you've viewed and things that you've purchased too.
yes, exactly that. But also you can start putting in, you know, years ago, I pointed out that most of those people email a friend weren't emailing a friend, they were sending themselves a reminder. And if you put a tracking code in that, you can tie the visits between different machines, because what was often happening is they're at work, they're on the work computer, they want to check it out at home when they've got time to look through it properly, but a lot of people surf during their break very quickly. You know, if you put a tracking code in that, now you can tie those two things together. And you know that this person started with a break time search and came back in the evening.
So people that we know created a plugin that is for social sharing. I'm not going to give them a plug, but unless you want to, it's your show. So social sharing plug. But what we found was, or what I found when going through the analytics, because this social sharing plug sent events to analytics as well as UTMs, was that on mobile devices, guess which social sharing button of their social sharing lineup was pressed the most? It was the email a friend. So yeah, you're right. People weren't emailing a friend, they were emailing themselves.
Yes.
Right? They were using the social share to email themselves to remember to do this thing.
Yeah.
It's like,
we found by changing the text to reflect that usage, we could increase the effect, anything up to 50%. And, you know, now it's because it was giving the idea to those who hadn't thought of it. And it really was then starting to be a really useful thing. They're expecting you to be tracking it. They're expecting you to know.
What people
But now
don't
you've tied two machines together.
Yeah. On a related note, a lot of people think Pinterest, right?
Yeah.
Most of their stuff is from people using the bookmarklet.
right.
People think it's the following and the stuff on the site. No, it's people searching their bookmarklets and searching for stuff on Pinterest topics.
Well, back in the day, I used to always look to my mom to beta test anything that I was building for a client. I'd be like, "Hey, mom, you want to see something like I'm working on?" Just to see if she could use it, you know. But now it's actually I've started watching my wife and how she uses the internet, and she emails herself articles that she doesn't have time to read now, but wants to read. And at the end of the week, she has like 50 articles saved up that she then reads like when she has an hour of time to read. And I'm like, that's probably how, like you said, so many people are using it, is that they're emailing themselves links to read later, which is exactly what Pinterest is like. Some people don't even have public boards. It's private boards that they're sharing to like bookmark for later. It's amazing that you use Pinterest for it, because there's no good bookmarking apps anymore. Like, but yeah.
It's like Amazon has a shopping list. You find something you like, you don't want to buy it now, you save it to your shopping list, right?
eBay's got much of the same thing with its watch list.
Yeah. One of the things, if you look at the new Edge browser, it's got a thing to put notes on the browser itself. And I think that was because they saw so many people using email apps. They thought people want somewhere to store where they want to read later. And that's what it does. It leaves a note for you to read this later.
Yeah.
So it doesn't clog up your bookmarks, because that's why I started looking. Your bookmarks are full of stuff that you wanted to read.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got 60 folders in my bookmark and four screens of general shit that's not even in a folder, you know.
The worst thing is when you're in the middle of, you know, cross-checking lots of information, and then something comes up and you go, bookmark all, finish going through them later. And then 2 years later, you find that folder.
What's really bad is when you get a little bit too quick on the trigger, and you want to go to a particular one and you end up open all. And then you go make a sandwich until you can come back and reboot.
That would just crash my machine. Mine, I literally have to scroll down, I think, for like 5 minutes to get to the bottom of my bookmarks because I was so bad organizing them in the beginning. And now it's too long a list to ever organize. So I have to live with it until I decide to just clear it all out, which is just going to be, I don't think I can ever do that. But yeah, same thing. So now I've started doing like project by project basis, saying this bookmark is for this specific project, which I know I'll never read anyway. Like as soon as I bookmark something, I'll never find it again. But,
David, create a new top level folder called old and shift everything into that.
that's too similar to my task list, which is shit that never gets done, and it's just a text list of all the stuff that never gets done. But yep.
Yeah. But that's it. You know, if in 6 months you haven't done anything to sort out any of the stuff in old, delete the folder.
But
if you haven't missed 6 months, you're not going to.
It was important enough to put on a list. I can't get rid of it ever. It's going to serve a purpose for me one day. I don't know what, but one day I will find a use for it.
If nothing else, they can use it in your eulogy.
That could be the future of just read out people's bookmarks lists,
or their browsing history, just to make it really interesting.
One day, Google is going to tell you that incognito searching, we were still tracking your behavior, and we have all those links that you thought we weren't tracking. And they're going to hold it up and blackmail everyone.
Right, and courts are going to start subpoenaing information. Yeah.
Especially, we'll start with the White House and go from there. Yes.
Yeah, it's always been the thing that, I think Google are the most naive about at times is, look, you can't go building up that kind of data and it not being a golden goose egg to every security service in the world. Sooner or later, they will find a way to make you hand it over if they haven't already and ordered you to not tell anybody.
Yeah. They'll either put a group of hackers together to get to it, or they'll get a judge to issue a subpoena.
Isn't that the impetus behind Google switching everybody over to HTTPS? The NSA is hacking this under the ocean?
I would imagine that's a big part of it. But I don't think that's their prime motivation, but that's certainly going to be a benefit. I'm kind of surprised there hasn't been some sort of an organized effort to combat the HTTPS, simply because it's got to be putting a big hitch in the get along for a lot of these government agencies that have been harvesting like nuts.
Oh, hey. Come on. They already have a backdoor to all that stuff anyway. Let's be honest.
I don't know about you guys, but I just did a migration to SSL. I had to remove so many links to sites that weren't SSL. Right. In other words, I wasn't going to break my site in order to link to a guy that didn't have a secure site, because that breaks the certificate, right? So
does it?
Yeah, if you go off your domain with no HTTPS, it does not pass.
Yeah, if you've got a hard link to an HTTP site, it's definitely going to show as mixed content, and you're going to end up with the not secure, either the info icon or not secure.
So if you have a ton of links to your site, you're losing traffic because you aren't secure.
So
because it's so much of a hassle that I just said, screw it. I'm going to pull the content down. I took whole pages of content down that it was mainly links out to other sites. And I said, this ain't really drawing traffic, ain't ranking, ain't no good to me. I threw it out.
Even if you link to the HTTPS, even though they might not have it set up, and leave it to their server to handle the rewrite?
It's broken link.
Mm.
If I link to it as HTTPS, it's a broken link.
That's
Got
fact.
All right.
So when I went through the database, I was in a hurry, so I just made everything HTTPS, and then I'll go through and re-spider, and Screaming Frog will tell me all the sites that are 404, and I'll remove those as well.
Yep. Well, if they're good, apart from the broken thing, have them go through a redirect that you've got on your site as HTTPS that follow.
Yeah, if it's a good link, it's worth. Yeah.
That way, the user still gets the link, but it doesn't detract because it's got a block in there to stop the spider from telling you it's a broken link, because where you're linking to is your secure script to redirect them.
I'm telling you, small businesses, right? Because that's what most of these were. It was one of my clients that does a lot of B2B with home-based businesses. And out of the 8, I had 8 logos on one page saying, these are like, and only 2 of the 8 was a secure site.
Yeah.
This is going to cause havoc for some people somewhere along the line. Not to mention, it cost my client about $1,500 for me to turn it over in my time.
No.
That's a lot of hours for nothing. He doesn't need to have a secure website.
Well, I think it's anybody that's basically done a redesign or major tech push of any kind within the last, 18 months maybe?
Yeah, about August of 2014, I think, is when they announced it.
Yeah, but even then, it wasn't really, I guess, until maybe the last year where it was really easy and brainless for people to get SSL certificates on their servers. I mean, there was something about maybe a year and a half ago where suddenly every web host was making it easy if you were doing a new install. But if you're locked in and you've just been on, paying my monthly hosting bill, switching to HTTPS is a pain in the butt. I mean, unless you're doing a major overhaul.
It wasn't the server side for me. It was making my site compliant.
Right.
If you're on WordPress, man, it can be hair pulling time. I'm probably a little balder this week than I was.
Right. It's like you almost have to do a clean reinstall of your WordPress in order to get it to work correctly the first time. I mean, that would actually
the permalinks, and then go into the database and do
the database back in. Yeah. I would actually do it.
Do a search and replace on the database.
Yeah. Well, not just the database, but your code, because there's also deep links in plugins and everywhere else.
No. This guy, deep links with the HTTP, all of that, I've never done that. Always relative links.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, lots of plugins, are the first time you install the plugin, they set the URL, and they oftentimes hard set it with HTTP if your site is HTTP. So actually having to go and change your site to HTTPS, you could go ahead and do that, but some of your plugins are still doing HTTP actually as opposed to HTTPS. It actually
there's 30 plugins. They all have their own CSS, and nothing checks CSS for hard-coded links like that. So that was the hardest thing, was figuring out where these even were. You have to go through, I found CSS that I didn't even know was on the site until I had to find it in this thing. And then there are some really good programs now, though, for doing it. Where you just go to the site, put yours in, and it tells you everything that's not compliant. First time I did it, was made a site secure, there was nothing like that. Had to do it all, figure it all out yourself. But it was, there weren't as many APIs and stuff used as, we didn't have anything coming into the website. But I think for the next little while, that might not be a bad service to set up as making sites secure.
I agree, except I wouldn't want to be that person ever.
Well, you'd have to charge a lot of money to make money at it.
I know, but I'm like you. I don't want to be pulling out my hair.
Well, I found with the tools, it gets a lot easier.
This is where I disagree with you, Terry, about the WordPress aspect. 99% of my work is in WordPress.
Yeah.
I had one the other day, a new client, somebody referred him over to me. She was in a panic, not an e-com site. They were quoting her, some SEO cold called her and offered her conversion or migration to HTTPS for only $27.50, and she better hurry up and get it done because she's going to be de-indexed by the end of the year if she's still on HTTP. Just crap cat bullshit. And it took me about 40 minutes to go through her site and get rid of all the mixed content and get her totally migrated. And I charged her $200 and felt bad about that because it took me a little over a half an hour. They're not all that easy, I'll grant you, but WordPress in general for a DV certificate, just like a Let's Encrypt, and then you use that really simple SSL plugin. The vast majority of the conversions I do, that's going to cover all but just a couple of links.
That was
the images. Yeah, the images alone, just getting those taken care of is a godsend. But any of the hard-coded links, and like you say, you get some of this stuff in the CSS, it can be a bitch to find. But the vast majority of them, if it's a decent WordPress site, they're pretty, they're just almost a rubber stamp. Run Let's Encrypt, run really simple SSL, and several of them that I've done, that literally did everything.
Right. Really simple SSL. After I talked to you and you turned me on to that I finished it that afternoon.
Yeah, that's sweet, isn't it?
Yeah. The main thing is it tells you exactly what files you have to edit. Then it only takes a few minutes. Like, I couldn't, I didn't even know some of those CSSs were being used on the site.
Yeah.
And it really upsets me, as I know it does a lot of guys, that there's so many so-called experts out there that are pumping crap, blowing smoke up people's skirts about, you're going to get de-indexed by the end of the year. Good Lord, I'd like to take this guy out behind the woodshed and wear out a shovel handle on him.
People would never de-index anybody for that. They might not. They might put a note on your site saying that it's insecure, but they wouldn't de-index you.
Yeah, it's just, and then to charge almost $3,000 for something like this, just that's just outrageous. I mean, we're in business to make money, but I like getting laid too. But that doesn't mean I want to be a rapist.
That was a large leap right there. Can we?
you gotta. Come on, David. There's an analogy, okay?
That was a big leap right there. Just saying. Slow it down a little. Take it a little slower.
I don't know. It's just a shame, and when things like this scare comes out, and you get these jacklegs that are trying to use it to their advantage and garbage out there. And I would love to track this guy down and find out, take a look at some of his previous clients. Did they even take care of mixed content? Is the site even really secure once it gets done?
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, the other thing in
they
this quote that the guy was
genuinely
telling her, the guy was also telling her that the reason that they were pushing HTTPS so hard was to make her site secure against hacks and DDoS. Come on, somebody pass me a shovel.
Yeah.
I need to bury this guy.
But I could say that about SEO. Like one time I was talking to a prospective client, and there was another big agency going for him. And they said to me, well, how can you offer the same service or better at a much lower, like half the price of the agency? I said, well, A, I don't drive a Jaguar. B, I don't have an office that costs 15 grand a year. I only have a few clients, but I probably may take home as much as that guy. I just don't have all the overhead and all the bullshit.
Yeah.
I hire only consultants, because then you don't have to pay all the government taxes and other nonsense. And it's actually better for someone in SEO to work as a consultant rather than as a employee.
Oh yeah.
Because they can write off their transportation, they can write off their telephone. There's so much more they can get back, and all they don't really have is job security. But no SEO should have job security.
Well, I've seen an awful lot of turnover in agencies, so I don't know if that job security really exists anyway.
Half the time they're left to take an even better job somewhere. I remember one company I was with, our junior trainee got a head of SEO job somewhere else, and we were just, oh my God, we didn't want to stop him going, believe me.
No, but
This
that's
guy
where you
made some expensive mistakes.
You just tell yourself, well, there's one less competitor we need to worry about.
Yeah.
For sure.
But you do think, well, how the hell did he get through the interview process?
Talked a good show.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, most people who are interviewing don't really know the questions to ask, especially if it's in-house. Those marketing guys, they may think they know, but they don't know the questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I've always believed and thought it was a little naive of our industry to expect people to know the questions to hire a proper SEO. They don't know, because if they knew, they'd be doing it themselves.
But that's exactly why I've always said, stick to the stuff you do know. Talk business issues, make them answer in business terms. Because if they start getting technical and they start trying to throw terms around, yeah, you don't know whether they really know what the term is or not, unless you know the term better than they do. Well, but if they are able to answer in business terms, we want to increase turnover by 20% in the next 6 months. Can you do that? And how? Perfect.
And how? Yes, there's a biggie.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's not like they can point to like case studies. I mean, nobody has case studies unless they're a big firm. Nobody can really point to something because that information is, generally speaking, behind lock and key. I mean, so how do you prove what somebody was able to accomplish? I mean, the only thing you can hope to have is that they have references that would speak highly of what they've done, but that's about the extent of it. And to be honest, even then, I mean, how many of you guys have specific references from clients that would stand in for case studies? It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get to agree to that.
I always thought of that because early on, this was a completely new thing to everybody. There was a time when SEO wasn't a term that was understood, and I got in the habit then of making sure that I built good references and case studies, and it was a part of my pitch all the way through. One of the reasons that I come in at this price, which is so much less than some of the agencies, is because I depend on case studies, testimonials, referrals, and they know up front that, you know what, I'm hoping you're going to give me some referrals. I'm definitely expecting a case study out of this. I won't reveal anything that's proprietary, but we will talk in general terms about what's been going into the campaign. What are the main headaches? What are the things we did? Nothing that a competitor could directly use, but enough that a competitor could possibly come to me and say, hey, can you explain that? Sure. That'll be £5,000, please. You know.
Well,
6,500 if you want it in English.
I recently had an issue where I was trying to get a job on e-commerce, and it come down to they wanted to see all these sites I'd done, and I said, well, you know, some of them, most of them I can't even show you.
Nope.
Because I, you know, did SEO on them, and people don't want people to know that I've been associated with their site. And, you know, on top of that, you know, I don't do all of the design myself. So looking at what I do is not really what you should do. Is just let me do my job, and, you know, but I guess that wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to make sure that, you know, the fact I've been in business for 25 years might be a clue that, you know, I must know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But then again, you know, you can't even afford an office, Terry. So. Sorry.
You're on today, Ammon.
It is one of those things, you know, anyone who is in our business, you should be thinking ahead of how will I demonstrate this? How will I show value up front? Because people should be asking those kind of questions, and knowing how you can answer them is something you should have addressed in your marketing model. If you haven't done that by now, have a think about it over the next month or two. Work out a way to incentivize it and make it work.
In the past, I could show them some sites that I own, but those have, you know, like the cobbler shoes thing. He got the worst shoes in the town usually. So I can't really show those now. That's one of the reasons I recently took on a client on a performance basis with the proviso that I own part of the site, so I can use it in a case like that, right? It's basically a working demo that they can also, they're making sales off it, and they can't really, well, it's, you know, some manufacturers have really weird rules about what you can, how you can sell things on the web. They don't really care that all your competitors are breaking those rules. If you want to stay affiliated with them, you've got to follow their rules.
Yep.
Even if it's hurting your business. So I figured out a way around that, and that's, I'm going to build another store.
Some of it is best solved with simple social engineering as well. I mean, you know, in your contract, make sure it says that, you know, you wish to be able to talk about in general terms the work you've done. If they would rather this was kept private, here's the surcharge for that. You'll be surprised how few will tick that box and pay the extra for privacy. The ones that would have told you, oh, we don't want anyone to know about this, it's far too important, they won't pay $1 to keep it private. It's not that important to them.
Okay. I never looked at it that way. That's probably a good...
But you charge extra for the privacy because you're having to spend that in other marketing terms instead of being able to demonstrate your work.
Yeah, probably. And also for me, it's tough because I do so much work for other SEOs and developers that I can't really, you know, for the last 2 years, that's the way most of it has been, was, you know, another SEO brings me in to do some work, or a developer says, hey, I need some help. Can you work on this site? Yeah, so.
Well, you see, even
Yeah,
with them, I'd be charging and saying, look, if I send a client to you for a referral, can you know, are you going to say to them, oh, we've used Terry for lots of projects repeatedly. I can't tell you exactly which projects, but we use him a lot. He's a great guy. We're very happy with him. Because if you can't, I need to charge extra because that's time that could have been going into something that generated more work. Or you've already negotiated, you know, because it's ongoing. But just allow for that. Know that marketing is one of the roles of your business, and it has a cost and it has a reward. And if you are not getting that reward, then you should be passing that cost on somewhere.
Good point. And I think an awful lot of people miss that. I'm in the same boat as Terry. I do an awful lot of work with others, and there's nothing I can really say there other than the fact that I can put a prospective client in touch with them. And like you say, yeah, we've used him on a dozen projects, and it's been a great relationship. We'll continue, you know, to use him. That's about the most you can hope for. And unfortunately, there's a credibility issue with that too, because the client's going to think, yeah, well, they're friends, or they've known each other. So how much can I really? It's like going to LinkedIn. You know, to me, a recommendation, an actual text recommendation on LinkedIn might mean something, depending upon what's in it. But I mean, you know, I make no bones about the fact that I have no intention until the day I die. I will never touch PPC. If I need to do PPC with a client, I bring in Steve or somebody else to do it for me because I hate it. I don't want to learn it. Yet I can't tell you how many dozens of checkbox recommendations I've gotten on LinkedIn for my PPC work.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to go and try to delete these things. It's just, to me, those mean absolutely nothing, because especially when you see the same little avatar all the way down 16 different categories, you know, this is a friend doing a friend a favor. I'm sorry. There's no credibility in that.
Yeah. No, often the way LinkedIn used to do it was, you know, do you endorse them for these skills? And there's a whole, and they just look at a couple and go, yeah, I trust them. If they say they can do it, then they can. So yeah, they're not checking. It's not that they're trying to deceive anybody. It's simply the way that LinkedIn engineers the process.
Well, I think an awful lot of times they are trying to deceive somebody, because they're hoping if they check all your boxes, you'll come check you'll go check all their boxes.
There are people.
It ain't going to work that way, buddy. I mean, I get recommendations from people I have no clue who in the world they are, and they live on a different continent, you know, and they check me all the way down the line. Now, come on.
You're breaking up pretty bad there, Doc.
Really?
Or maybe
Not
it's
from this
just...
end. Yeah. Close that porn site, Terry. It's taking up too much bandwidth.
Or it could be my connection is like as flaky as they come lately. It's up and down. Wow, sometimes really maddening. Seems to know when I'm running a report that takes 24 hours, halfway through it decides to bring the internet down and start off.
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, that's your ISP guy. Yeah, he's doing it again. Come on.
Same with Microsoft. Every time I ran that program, they decide to do an update and they'd restart my machine.
Yeah, see, I turned that off. It restarts my Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I got my brother to show me how to turn it on and off.
I don't know. He's a Microsoft fanboy and then doesn't know how to work it. What's going on, Terry?
Well, my brother's a fanboy. I do work with them, but my brother knows all that stuff. See, I have a strict rule that I learned from Henry Ford, you know. He used to have buttons that when someone asked him a question, he'd just press the button. A guy would come and give him the answer. And when he was in court, they were trying to say that he was stupid. And he said, well, why would I want all this information when I can press a button and a guy comes in and gives it to me? Why would I want to keep it in my brain when I have that? Which that's the way I do. I only store stuff on a need-to-know basis.
we're at time for this week, so a quick round. Bill, what are you up to this coming week?
I'm working on finishing off my PubCon presentation.
Nice, excellent.
Yeah,
And practicing drinking at the pub.
we're working on that too. Yeah.
Practice makes perfect, right?
Doc, what are you up to?
Oh, well, we just rented our apartment out to a new tenant, and I'm doing some refurb here around the house, and getting ready to start painting the outside of the house in my spare time, and taking on a new client and doing a really interesting combination of 3 sites into one. And I'm enjoying it because of the 3 sites, one of them is hosted on GoDaddy for about another 12 hours. And the other one is on 1&1. I got them off of there about 2 hours ago.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with GoDaddy. I've got a couple of sites that are hosted there that I've got no problem with. But, you know, I had simple needs for those things. I picked the right project to go with that particular price.
I use them a lot as registrar, but not for hosting. And 1&1 I wouldn't use to put out a forest fire.
No.
When they originally started, the German company was very good for the German market. When they came over to the UK, they were still trying to use the German hosting, and of course it gave tons of problems to sites that were trying to be located in the UK, had a .com site, and of course Google was thinking it was in Germany because the IP was from Germany. Big issues. Slow to adapt, as a lot of big companies can be. And yeah, most things are all about the money and more than, in my experience, the customer care.
Yeah, 1&1 and Rackspace, when I first started doing ASP, they were one of the few hosts that did Microsoft hosting, right, on an ISP. It was pretty hard to find it. That's why after a few run-ins with both of those companies, I bought my own servers and said, that's enough of that stuff. I'm out of here. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. What are you up to this week, Tay? What are you up to?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm starting to rebuild a few of my old sites. Gonna relaunch one. We spoke about it the other day. I'll be releasing some news soon. I hope to cause a lot of discussion when I open.
I think that's a safe bet, Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm starting that.
I'm still fighting bureaucracy left, right, and centre, but I've got a few small projects on the horizon, and I've been writing a few things that may surface eventually. But that's all for us this week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.